What's going on, guys? Welcome to another ghetto setup in my kitchen. Can't wait to get the boom stand for this mic, but at least the quality of the mic is good. I'm currently working on this longboard that I'm trying to sell. I've had it for a few years now. I bought it because I wanted to be like Casey Neistat when I grew up on YouTube. I rode this thing to the gym when I was unemployed and didn't want to spend money on gas, and a little electric longboard. It goes about 30 miles an hour for about 30 miles. Really good, but I think it's time for us to part ways, mainly because I have a motorcycle now. So I'm putting it on eBay, saying farewell to it. I will miss you. I rode this thing all around Salt Lake City. Anyways, today's video, we're doing a follow-up with Mike. I did a previous video with Mike. He went to Lighthouse in Montreal, Canada. He got a job right after that, and he's been working that job for about 4 months now. So we're checking in, seeing what the best and worst parts of this job are. Does he have any of the dreaded imposter syndrome? Seeing what the life of a junior developer is. Like, what do you actually do on the job? There's no way you spend like 8 hours a day coding like you do in Code Bootcamp. So those sorts of questions. By the way, Mike took the whole build a brand as a developer thing pretty serious. So he has his own YouTube channel now where he's actually teaching code, the stuff that I don't really want to do because it's not my thing. But he's teaching code courses. You can go check that out on his YouTube channel, like basics of JavaScript and some stuff with Node. He's actually the first person that's going to be producing a course on my website, Grindr.academy. It's how to host a local host online temporarily with this thing called ngrok. I don't really know how it works because Mike is the wizard at that, and that's not really my thing, but that's gonna be his course. It's gonna be on Grindr Academy. It's a free course, you can go check it out. Hope you guys enjoy this video. I enjoyed making it. If you do, hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button, maybe check out the Discord if you want, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Put the tissue paper away. Put the KY underneath the pillow. All right, so Mike, you've been a developer for 4 months since you graduated Lighthouse Coding Bootcamp. And this is going to be a follow-up video to see what your experience has been like. Got a whole bunch of questions for you. What do you do on a day-to-day basis? What's your day look like starting from when your alarm clock goes off?
So I wake up at around 7 o'clock and I go right away to the train. I don't eat breakfast or anything. And when I get to work, I get straight into my ticket of the day, or I start a new one. And we have a stand-up at around 11 o'clock in the morning. And then from 11 to when I leave at around 3, we're just grinding through whatever tickets we have, because that's my team's job. We're an R&D team, so we don't have really sprints or anything. We just have a big list of backlog.
What does your company do? Like, what do they hire you for? What was the stack?
So the company does management software for organizations. So they go for like a smaller organization, so like your local little league team, and they'll set up their website and they'll do everything through their app. It's almost like a WordPress style thing. They deal with everything from payments to now they're working on things like league management.
And what is your stack specifically? What do you use on a day-to-day?
So React and Redux. Then it's a .NET. So it's a .NET MVC job, which I've never done before. So that was a big challenge for the first couple of weeks, just not knowing what I'm looking at.
How is it using React with a C# backend? Because React is front-end library, C# is MVC. How do you integrate those two?
You know how like with Ruby you can have ERB files? So each ERB file is a React. So it's just you're sending a view to the front end, and then in there you have a bunch of little things.
So you're just sending mini app JS's to the front end from your C# backend. What is the best part about your job? Do they have perks? Do they got free food? They got game nights? They got like work remote days? What are because you said it was kind of a startup, it's a little bit of a smaller company, startup vibe. So what's your favorite part, best part about the job?
I love the flexible hours, so I can come in at 7 in the morning if I wanted to, and then leave really early. If I was a Smash fan, I'd probably say the Smash tournaments is my favorite part, but I don't have a Switch, so. And
then what is the worst part?
I found it kind of weird that they like to communicate more through Slack than in person when you're sitting right next to each other. I feel like the whole team communicates on Slack, and we're all sitting next to each other and we can just kind of peek our head over, but no one does that. So I find it kind of weird, because at that point, why not just do a remote job, since we're not really talking to each other? You know.
I think they probably use Slack because the message goes to their Slack and they see the notification, but they don't have to totally break their flow of what they're doing. Versus if you tap them on their shoulder, they're forced to break their flow to whatever they're doing. Have you experienced the dreaded imposter syndrome? Did you walk in on day one and you were like, what have I done?
Yeah. A couple times where they were like, hey, this is a little small ticket, little .NET ticket. you take this. It'll be your first nice project. And it's like a week later, I finished it. And I'm like, damn, that took a week. That and using Redux. I've never used Redux at a professional level. And I've used it to make like to-do lists. But jumping on this, where they have like 10 different files for Redux, it kind of panicked for a second.
Compared to what you know now about being a junior developer and actually being a developer, what is there any disconnect between what you thought it was going to be, like between going to Code Bootcamp and actually working? Because I know at Code Bootcamp you said in our last video that you worked for like 12, 13-hour days. There's no way that happens at work. At least it didn't happen for me. I don't think that you're coding 7.5 hours straight all day.
No.
What's the differences between a coding bootcamp prep and actual on-the-job code?
Scale that so like the tickets we're picking off are usually like make a little component here that deals with credit card payments. When we're working at the bootcamp, we're like 3 people in a group, so we're doing so much more. We're at my company, we have like 60 developers, so there's so much like so many little things to do, but you're not ever working on one big feature on your own. So sometimes it can be a little boring where you have to like the whole team is working on the major parts and you just kind of have to take the little pieces and put them together. Whereas in the bootcamp, it's like I'm dealing with the whole front end and my other 2 teammates are dealing with the whole back end.
So is having the dev job everything that you've ever wanted? Do you see yourself moving more towards technical CTO route, management? Do you not like it at all? Do you want to go be freelance, make a startup? What's your experience been like? Where do you see yourself in a few years?
It's been a lot of fun. For the past 4 months, I've learned a lot. Like the mic that went in on day 1 and now it's just 2 different people with all the stuff I've learned and they've taught me. But I don't see myself going for a CTO role or anything or management. I really want to break off and do my own thing because I'm a little concerned that after hearing about their financials, I'm a little concerned of what the future of the company is.
Do you have any advice for up-and-coming developers that are in boot camps now that are wondering what the difference is between being at the boot camp and being at the job, and what you would do differently to prepare for the job, and just any helpful hints or tips for people wanting to be where you're at right now?
Don't focus on the details in the code and things like that. Focus on the potential that you show, right? Because as a junior developer, they're not expecting you to, or even an internship, they're not expecting you to come in and just start programming like all the senior developers. They're going to have to teach you. You're going to have to ask questions. That's expected. I got hired for a stack I've never used before, but they saw potential, and that's what allowed me to join the team because they thought maybe in a year from now or 6 months or whatever, he'll be a good fit for the team. So it's all about showing potential. It's not about exactly what you know.
So you mentioned that you got hired for a stack that you didn't actually learn at the bootcamp. What stack was that? Has there been anything that you could carry over from what you learned at the bootcamp that made it easier, or was it just like totally foreign language, like learning code all over again?
So the stack, or I'll say it again, it was React, Redux, .NET, and Microsoft SQL. And in the bootcamp, we went over React, Node, Ruby, and Ruby on Rails, and a lot of database stuff, so like Mongo, SQL databases, all that. I'm really happy we did Rails because we did it with MVC patterns, which is what .NET MVC uses. So I was able to carry a lot of that knowledge over.
So Mike, if you could go back to Code Bootcamp and tell yourself you will need to know this thing on the job and they're not teaching you it, what is that thing?
What to spend more time on and what to spend less time on. Instead of focusing on like the little things that bother me because they don't, the div is not perfectly centered or whatever, and planning ahead of time. Like in the bootcamp, I kept on making a lot of mistakes where I tried to do too much work in the front end or too much work in the back end, and it didn't run well or whatever. So planning ahead, maybe just taking a paper and writing out my user stories or something like that, and then document everything. So every single project, throw it on GitHub, throw some pictures of it while it was being made, halfway done. Throw every single note I wrote about a feature. So like, there's a like button, it does this. There's a favorite button, it does this. You can comment, this is how it's done. Documenting everything so that you don't even have to look through the code and you know what the app does.
What does your desk look like? What does the office look like? How's the culture? Is it open office? Is it cubicle? Do you get good gear? Are you on a Mac or a Windows? I'm assuming Windows because .NET, but how's the office culture like? How are the people and all that?
The office is really nice. They have 2 floors in this big building downtown. They got a kitchen downstairs. They got a kitchen upstairs. They got decent chairs, really good setups, really good computers. It's pretty open and there's plants everywhere, which is cool. But yeah, it's a really nice office. It's you got like these meeting booths with TVs with like Raspberry Pis, and you can log into your computer remotely, and then you can in your meeting you could just like show what you would show at your desk. There's a lot of really cool stuff.
Do you think that you've had like a good mentor, like that's been behind you, showing you what to do, helping you out? How has that been? Have people been receptive to you basically since you've started, or are they just kind of like figured out?
At first, it was we had like these meetings where we'd all the new employees would go in like I think we were like 8 people, and we all would go in a room with one of the developers, and each developer took parts. So one developer did unit testing, one did the back end, the front end, all the little pieces, the database, and then they showed us everything for like a 2-hour lecture. You know how you could do pair programming with someone? So we passed the keyboard around to the 8 people in the room, which is kind of cool. Never done that before.